Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's an exciting day to always get started. I always like it when it's nice outside. And so we'll be able to drop right into today's training with me having a lot of energy. If you haven't already, make sure you put some information just about your company. Let us know who you are. A couple of key words that just say what you sell or what your company does. And then also just let us know what city and state you're coming from. That's always good. Sometimes people can connect. You're in the same neighborhood, etc. I like to say that when you're building a network, it doesn't matter if you're like doing cybersecurity and you're finding a bunch of other people who are, also doing cybersecurity. You could connect with somebody doing facility maintenance, and if you're both in the same area and both going after, let's say, the Army, you might have relationships within the Army that you can pass back and forth or knowledge back and forth. So don't ever, rule people out because they're not quite in your area. The idea of a network is it's broad and we can all help each other out there. Okay, so let's get started with daily federal sales habits for success. I like talking about this because sometimes we feel like we're just running around with our heads cut off, or there's a lot of chaos out there, or maybe you feel like every day you're starting your day and it's right from the beginning of your day, you feel like you're putting out fires or just fighting fires and they're not getting put out at all. Sometimes I hear people talk about or express that they feel like they're doing all the right things, but they're not having success. And without being mean, maybe a teeny bit brutal, but without being mean, if you're not having success, you definitely are not doing all the right things. If I am not having success that I'm trying to have in particular areas, then I'm not doing all the right things. For example, I'll get hundreds of people who will register each week for training, but they don't show up live. What could I do to get them to show up live? Because actually, I really want more people to show up live because that's when networking happens. That's when I don't even know what's happening because you're networking in the chat. And so I don't sit there and say, oh, I'm doing the right things. I've got my thing scheduled. It's there. It's like, no, what can I do to entice people? Maybe I can do a handout, but say you can only get the handout if you're live. And it's the same thing in whatever you're doing in your business, in your daily work. If you feel like you're constantly under fire, you just got to pause for a second and regroup. And that's what I'm hoping to share with you today in some of the training I'm going to be talking about. When I came into the Army a long time ago, and I'm not sure if the motto is back again, but we used to say things like the Army does more by 9 o'clock than most people do all day. I would argue that was more like 7 or 8 o'clock, not 9 o'clock. But the idea is we're just in there and we're doing it a lot. What that motto doesn't totally show is that sometimes the day kind of lingers out. But the real thing is you put your energy into the beginning of the morning. That's when we have the most energy. And so today, when I'm going to be talking about habits, I want you to be thinking about them as morning habits. I don't want them to be secondary to anything else in your life. I really believe that if you sit there and put the right habits in place, you figure out what's good for you. And I'm going to give you suggestions on what's good for you as it relates to sales. But you can 10x what you're doing in your day. I'm amazed constantly. I'm completely full. My day is packed, and I'm doing all sorts of stuff on a lot of different agendas. And then I reshape my habits and my activities, and bam, I free up 50% of my day. I'll give you a quick example. Yesterday, I finished. So I do these lives, right? And inside of YouTube, no one can see the lives afterwards in any easy way. And so what I always do manually is and my team was helping me with this, but download a live replay video, trim it, edit it, upload it, and then put in thumbnail and description, that kind of stuff, right? Just to make the YouTube video available forever for people out there, because I want to just reach as many people as possible. Well, I'm manually doing that. And that basically is about a 30 to 60-minute task, depending on what's happening. Yesterday, I just finished automating it, so it's 100% done without me. I don't even have to start something. I've built this tool, an AI tool that sits in the background, and every day at 4 o'clock, it's going to run. And it goes out and it does that magic. Well, I can look around my entire day's activities and do that same kind of thing. And I'm going to kind of give you hints around how you can do that yourself. In today's training, I want to break it up into 4 particular topic areas. First thing I want to talk about is Stephen Covey's 4 time management quadrants. This is huge, his time management matrix. And so the 4 quadrants that are in there is what we're going to talk about. And then we'll move on to talking about, I really want you to understand, you can't do anything I'm going to recommend if you don't feel like you're in control of your own life and your own day. And so I'm going to give you some guidance on the fact that you're in charge of your own schedule. Don't leave it to anybody else. And then the third thing I want to cover down is knowing your one thing. And this is really about knowing what's important. Just sticking with Stephen Covey today. He talks about put first things first, right? And that's kind of your one thing. By the way, he has 7 habits, and I like keeping them right there in front of me. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and I still keep those reminders fresh. And then the last thing I'm going to wrap up with is talking to you about some daily tasks and habits that I believe you should be doing if you're in federal sales. And I see some people from the government side, literally you could switch over what I'm saying to work for you as well. So that's what we're going to cover down on today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, founder of Call Plan AI, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. After I got out of the Army, I spent 20 years as a small business government contractor. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. So this is what I want for you, and this is what we're going to be talking about today. If you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, definitely reach out. Follow me on LinkedIn. Subscribe to my newsletter, the Government Contracting Success newsletter. And then register for tomorrow's training if you haven't done this already. I am going to be talking about the 7 highly effective habits, or 7 habits of highly effective government contractors. And basically, well, it's too far to reach because my back still hurts. But basically, I'm going to take the 7 habits and we're going to talk about that. So register for that training. All right, let's get rock and rolling. And again, if you're just getting here, say hello. If you're open to connecting with other people, let them know that you're open to connecting, because this is your chance to network with others, not just learn from me. So Stephen Covey, in his book, The 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, taught us about his time management matrix. And basically, he took all of our time and the activities we could be doing and put it into 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1 are important and urgent tasks. And I'm going to show you some examples in a moment. But you can kind of think about this, right? The customer calls with a fire. That's an important, urgent task. Quadrant 2 is important, not urgent. And quadrant 2 is the place we want to be, because that's strategic planning, right? That's doing some proactive outreach. It's important, but it's not urgent. You could easily find something to distract you. And so what you need to do is get into quadrant 2. Quadrant 3 is not important and not urgent. Not important and urgent. So an example is emails that just flood into your box. It's not important and it's urgent because it pops up. Your phone rings. That's urgent, the urgency of a phone call right in front of you. But it's not important. Unless you were expecting a particular call, don't answer it. More importantly, just let every call go to voicemail. Schedule 1 or 2 times a day to look at your voicemail. But your life is not here to be at anybody else's beck and call, except for maybe your children and very close family. Not your siblings, really close family. And then quadrant 4, it's not important and not urgent. And hopefully that makes sense as well. But not urgent is stuff that just has no relevance. And that could be somebody just walking by your desk talking about the Yankees or whatever. And that's certainly not important. And anyway, so we want to stay out of these quadrants. I want to use another slide, which just makes it a little easier, because that chart that I have there, and let me make it a lot bigger. So I built this, and I'm happy to give it to you as a handout. If you want to just put a time matrix in the chat, and I will send you this PDF. But this is a little handout I did on, again, Stephen Covey's time management matrix, and I try to push it along on the federal side. And so in here, you can start seeing, when you think about the things you should be working on and the things you end up working on, there are 3 quadrants that just keep grabbing your time. And one that is where you would benefit the most from being at. So quadrant 2, I like to call it the strategic quadrant. This is where you're strategically thinking about growing your business. If you've ever heard that line, you need to be working on your business, not in your business. Quadrant 1, 3, and 4 are working in your business, but quadrant 2, that's working on your business. And so our goal is to be thinking always about quadrant 2 tasks. So an example here, I put down, get 1 new piece of agency data, perform 1 step forward on an opportunity. For example, opportunities that are in a sales pipeline, your whole goal is to move them forward. You're not just supposed to find them and then respond to them. You're supposed to do stuff with them throughout. That's called capture, right? And so you just grab one thing and you're moving it forward. There are other big topic areas, and I'll talk about that in a minute, that you can also do on the quadrant. But think about your day, right? And think about maybe yesterday or how today has already started for you. Where do you find yourself getting pulled into? Are you spending a lot of time within quadrant 1? I'm hoping you're staying out of quadrant 2 and quadrant 3, which is not important. And I'm not talking about your personal life where you're at home binge watching Netflix. I don't care. I'm talking about quadrant 3 and quadrant 4 activities at the office, right? These things that distract you and they really do not help build your business. Potentially quadrant 3, you might be able to rationalize saying that there's some level of value, but it's really not there. And so just ask yourself, right? Where am I spending the most time? And you want to be spending it inside of quadrant 2. One of the ways you stay in quadrant 2 is for you to decide how you spend your day and not leave this up to other people to decide, their urgency. And I might even say this on the next slide. I do. Perfect. So right here on this next slide, I put poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. And I love that line because it's this idea of just because you're coming in with some sort of fire, unless I'm a firefighter, but just because you're coming in with a fire because you didn't plan things out, et cetera, it doesn't make it an emergency on my part. It doesn't mean I have to shape or shift my calendar all around. And so in here, I'm saying that you're in charge of your schedule. And you have to believe this to your core. And you have to believe this in such a way that your decisions each day are driving that. For example, you plan out your day. And I don't mean plan out how all 8 hours are going to be. First off, if you work an 8-hour day, get rid of 3 hours that are going to be non-productive and you just can't do anything about it. And you look at 5 hours, but forget about the time so much as the things you want to get done. What are things that could be in quadrant 2 that you would find very valuable for yourself, for your branding, for your sales activity within the pipeline, et cetera? But I said, you're in charge of your schedule. You decide what's going on. It's not your boss. Your boss's job is to give you things, hey, I need you to sit there and build our brand. Okay, thanks. How I do it is up to me. If you're not in an environment where your boss is giving you that freedom, right? And same thing with 3 bullets down, your customer's not giving you that freedom, then you need to have a conversation with them. You have to talk with them about, look, I'll manage my day. You and I just will set the expectations of what needs to be done. But what I don't need, boss or customer, is for you to call me up with a fire because you didn't plan, or something's going wrong with you or with somebody else, but you're coming in and disrupting my day. I am available at these times. And I'll come back to how I do this at the very end. And also your family, right? Don't let your family be driving you everywhere. There's one thing to have emergencies. There's another thing to have planned dental appointments. But last minute things, you got to work to control your calendar. And I know, right? There's whether it's family or customer, you're going to have a little bit of working room in there. But if you make the choice to own your calendar and you begin to communicate to other people, not in a bad way, but just, hey, I'm really trying to be effective and the most helpful to you, my family member, or to my customer, right? And in order to be most effective, I really want to manage my time correctly. Are you okay with that? Sure, I'm okay. It's like, okay, I'm going to answer my emails twice a day. How's that sound? And now you're starting to control people, their expectations. The 4th bullet, right? You decide what to do. So you look at the activities in those 4 quadrants and you start deciding your priorities. You're aligning them to your other stakeholders, your customer, for example, or your boss. But you want to focus as much as you can on those tasks that are quadrant 2. So if you're in federal sales, all of capture and business development, that's quadrant 2. You want to make sure you're not doing extra busy work by like going to a conference just for the sake of going to a conference. But if you go to a conference because these 3 people who are hard to reach are going to be there, that's really good. I put here in red, block out quadrant 2 on your calendar. So everything else can be loosey-goosey a little bit. But quadrant 2, block out 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, 2 hours a day. It depends on how much, freedom in your calendar you have. But block out at least 2 hours a day. I personally block out 6 hours a day. Now, I don't work 8 hours. I work more. But still, I play most of my time now in quadrant 2. And you can do the same thing, but you've got to schedule it on your calendar. Otherwise, things will just distract. And what I'm going to talk about at the end here, the habits and tasks you can do, these are things I want you to block out in the morning where you control your time and you're informing other people. So the last one is you need to say no respectfully, but clearly. And this is a big thing. There's all sorts of books out there in the business world and the professional development world where we hear guidance about you need to learn to say no. You need to learn to control your calendar. If somebody knows they can just keep throwing stuff at you for you to do it, then you're just going to get caught up doing all their busy work and not able to work on big projects. And we often will think, well, maybe that'll impress them. It won't, because at the end of the day, you're being measured on what you agreed to do, not all the things you took in between. So one of my favorite lines to control my calendar and to control the expectations, especially with customers, right? People are so afraid to set expectations with customers, but they're just another person. They're just a person who's got their own calendar and other people don't really respect their calendar. So when you start having conversations, they'll respect it, right? Very rare case, we just find a person is a jerk and really you just need to get away from them. But what I like to say to people is like they reach out. I hear people say this all the time. Oh, I can't meet at this time anymore. Like they have to reschedule or something with me because I got a customer meeting. Did you not tell the customer you had a commitment? I started doing this, I don't know, at least 15, 20 years ago. I would go on midday dates with my wife and I would schedule on my calendar that I have an appointment. And people are like, oh, how can you do that? I'm like, it's an appointment. And when somebody would call me, a customer, they're like, hey, can we connect at 1:00 this afternoon? It's so easy for us to go, well, hey, honey, I can't meet for lunch or long lunch or whatever it is. No, instead I would say, hey, I got a commitment at 1:00. How about we meet at 2:00 or 3:00, right? And they're always like, sure, it sounds good. Now, the very rare case, and I can't remember if I put it on the next slide, but I used to work, my last company, one of my customers was the White House. And I was running my company, but I was also a very strong technical expert in there. When they had fires, those fires became ours. That was just something I had to accept in there. The way I began to control my calendars, I just hired somebody else and said, there you go, have at it. Take care of the White House. So hopefully this makes sense. Put Charles in charge if you understand that reference and you understand you need to be in charge of your calendar. Charles in charge. I just want to have some fun. Hey, while you're doing that, I want to thank our sponsor for today's live and our lives going forward for 2026, Voltron, who helps write more winning proposals, federal proposals with their AI tools out there. And it's pretty exciting for me to watch them be able to go from solicitation to compliant, compelling drafts that are done in minutes instead of weeks. And this is a really exciting part of where the whole federal market is going. And so I'm excited to be not just having Voltron here as a sponsor, but being part of that journey with them. And looking forward, as we move forward, showing you a lot more about what they can do. But thanks to Voltron. Please throw a little thanks into the chat. I always like that. I like to show them that you appreciate that they're helping us bring these trainings back and forth. Okay, so I got 12 minutes left, and I got 2 slides. This one here is coming from a book called The One Thing. Pretty simple title, but it really makes sense, right? And one of the things it's trying to put, the messages it's trying to drive forward to us is that not everything is equally important, right? Not everything matters on the same level. And it's really important for people to figure that out. And so when you think about opportunities in your pipeline, not every opportunity in your pipeline is equally valuable to your company. Not all of the opportunities in your pipeline are equally under a time-sensitive crunch or something. So this is prioritization, right? This understanding of prioritizing what work is in front of you. And again, primarily I'm talking about in quadrant 2, the things that you determine you want to do. And so you're prioritizing this work that's in front of you and realizing that half of the work has got to be, 80% of the work has got to be subordinated below the 20%. If you haven't heard of that rule, the 80-20 rule, sometimes people call it Pareto's law or whatever. But the idea is that 20% of the work or the effort you do will deliver 80% of the value to your company, to yourself, et cetera. And you need to understand that at the very beginning by realizing not everything is equal. There's this great line out there that says, if you have to eat a frog, eat it first thing in the morning. Now, the assumption here is that you don't like eating frogs. I don't like eating frogs. If you do like eating frogs, forget about this parable or analogy, right? But if you have to eat a frog, this unpleasant thing, do it first thing in the morning. The story goes on saying, if you have to eat 2 frogs, eat them in the morning and eat the biggest one first. And the idea is that you take the most unpleasant tasks that have to be done and put them first thing in your day so they get done, and then you're back in control of your calendar. An example of these frogs could be just the daily habits you're trying to get done. For a lot of us who are in sales, we don't like doing cold outreach, or we don't, like sending emails. I mean, we send some emails, but we don't like following up and doing that disciplined task around sales. And so sales has to be done first thing in the morning. You take things like research and you can push them off to later in the day, things like that. And so the idea behind this slide is just to talk about if you prioritize and you know what's important, it will drive the activity that you do on a daily basis. Inside of the book, The One Thing, he's got this great line that guides us on how to think about that. He says, what's the one thing that if you do it, it will make everything else easier or unnecessary? What's the one thing you can do that if you do it, it will make everything else easier or unnecessary? Think about that right now with your company or with your job, right? What's the one thing that if you did it would make your life so much easier? So you can look at this as like a lifelong or an annual thing. If I shrink it down into a weekly type thing, I talked to you about the YouTube video. When I did that one thing, and it was a short time frame turnaround, but when I did that one thing where I built an AI tool to automatically do all my YouTube stuff for me, like the trimming and all that stuff, it automatically made everything else easier for me, because now I didn't have to worry about that not getting done, and I can focus on tomorrow's training earlier. It also made some things unnecessary. For example, all the editing, the downloading, the uploading, the thumbnail type stuff, that's all being done now by my AI tool, which is sticky to my message, right? It's my training, my original content. It's just taking some of that busy work away. You want to think that same way. What's that one thing that's in there? Okay, so let's talk about some daily habits that I'd like to recommend you do if you want to have more success. And this is in particular from a federal sales success out there. I didn't put them necessarily in an order, but they're fairly good order here with these 7 tasks. And one thing is you can continue to add to them as you get better and better. I can do these tasks myself much faster than most of you, but it's because I've been doing it over and over. I've really developed that skill. It's like I'm at Michael Jordan level of scanning data or something. And maybe you're still in college playing basketball. You could certainly be at my level. You just need to practice more. And if you start doing these things daily, you'll get very, very good at it, and it will take less time, allowing you to add more tasks to your morning habits. Okay, so the first thing you need to do, everybody in government contracting needs to do, every single day, spend 10 minutes max checking for RFIs and RFPs, right? And once you start doing this daily, all you have to do is say, show me anything that's changed in the last 24 hours. And you can browse through that really quick. So you'll look at SAM. If you're on GSA, you'll look at eBuy and see what came out. If you're on one of the other contract vehicles like Seaport Next Gen, you would pop in there and see that. At some point, you can have AI tools, like I said, where it pulls all of that together and puts it right in front of you. So you can do that review very, very quickly. But you're just trying to see, are there any opportunities that just came out or just had movement that I need to pay attention to? 10 minutes, and you should be able to get through those. Like if you find an RFI, you're not going to spend a lot of time looking at it. You're going to go, that looks pretty decent. Let me throw it in the pile. I'll look at it later. Second habit here is review your sales pipeline, right? A lot of us have opportunities in there. Maybe we got way too many. What are your top 3 opportunities? Every day, you should spend 5 minutes or less looking at your top 3 opportunities and making sure you know what the next step is for that opportunity. You can't look at all these opportunities. So look at the 3 most important ones to you and say, do I have an understanding of what needs to be done, and can it be done right away, right? And you schedule that task. You make sure that task gets done. The third task that you can do every morning is go into LinkedIn. I don't have time to show you, but I've done a lot of other training before. But go into LinkedIn and find posts that you like, posts that you agree with. Make sure the posts are related to what you sell. Because if you start going too far afield from what you sell, then you start attracting the wrong audience, right? No offense against those people, but you want to attract federal buyers. You want to attract teammates who are in that same world. By the way, so everything in here I'm talking about, examples of people I might reach out to is a guy named Steve Prince. He's a lawyer out there. He writes about so much stuff that I don't ever touch on. GAO reports, the FAR changes that are happening. So it's awesome. I'm able to go in there and engage with his stuff, and I'll talk more about that. But I might go in and begin to build a list of these people. Juliet is a proposal writing expert, and she writes content a lot of the times. And I love coming in and playing sales to proposal, yin and yang on it. And so you can find these people who are out there. These people are writing content that are related to what I do, but it's not the same. And by the way, there's people who write exactly in kind of my same space, and I'll still go out there, and if I see them, I'll give them a little thumbs up is what number 3 is, right? Engaging on those posts with a like. Number 4 is engaging with a comment. And so you want to go in and find 2 posts every single day that have something of value, and you want to write a response in there, or a comment, right? You don't want a comment that just says excellent. You absolutely don't want to do AI. I literally have blocked people who are in my community who just use AI because frankly, it infuriates me. I mean, if I take all this time to make the content and you go AI response, then I'm like, what, should I have AI talk to you and you have AI? So that's a pet peeve of mine. I don't like AI for our communication, but you can go in. Remember I talked about Steve Koprince. He'll write something about a GAO report, and I'll look at what he has, and I'll kind of look for a few minutes on the article and his summary of it, and I'll comment back about, wow, I didn't know this thing or something, right? I'm trying to engage with it. It adds value, but also I'm now becoming visible to Steven's audience. He's becoming visible to my audience, and that's why you want to be doing this, by the way, is you're gaining visibility. David Waltz is a federal sales guy from the Navy in here today. He posts content all the time. You can go in there and say, hey, I checked out that RFI you dropped. It's really good. It's not for us, but I'll push it out for other people. That was 4. Number 5 is follow 10 people on LinkedIn. So go into LinkedIn and follow people you think would be of value in your network, right? And follow just means you click on it and say follow, and you're not fully connected yet. You're paying attention to them. I do this constantly. Like I'm trying to find venture capitalists or I'm planning on that for Call Plan AI, which I'm building out. And so I'm finding VCs who are in my world who are on LinkedIn and maybe posting things that are lessons I can learn, et cetera. And so I'll go in and I'll follow them so I can just be staying aware of them. On the upper side, they'll also become aware of the fact that, hey, Neil just followed you. And they'll say what everybody says in the beginning. Who the heck is that? Right? And the idea is you're building a relationship. Number 5, I said follow people, but you can also follow company pages. There's thousands of government-related pages out there that you can find, and you follow it. And when they're sharing content, now you're consuming what the agency is sharing. You're also meeting and understanding who else is caring about that agency because they're the ones engaging. Number 6, connect with 10 new people. So I said follow. That's what you do when you're not really posting a lot of content. But when your relationship starts evolving a little bit, then connect with them. I talked about VCs. I don't connect with them. I follow them for a while, weeks, maybe a couple of months or something. But I'll connect with anybody in my training because they know who I am. We can connect right away. You could do something similar. You could find the people who were in the training today live, posting comments. You could also go see who registered to attend my training. It's well over 100 people. You can connect with 10 of them. Hey, sorry I missed you in the Neil's training. I'd love to connect if you're open to it, right? And that's how you're building your network. And you want to do that every single day. You don't want to do it once in a while. Every single day, connecting with 10 new people. And the last one, number 7, is send 5 new emails or 5 new voicemails out to people you want to reach to get those intro calls. You could build a list of 100 people, and every day just call 5 of them or email them and say, hey, I'd love to introduce myself to you. Generally, this would be people, let's say, in the Navy that you're trying to get into, and maybe some small businesses that are also in there. You've got that list, but you're reaching out every day. This is outreach, and this is developing your networking and letting people know who you are. All right, I got 1 minute left, I think 2 minutes left. Here's what I want you to remember from today's training. First thing is protect the first hours of your 2 hours of your day. Block that out if you can, like 8 to 10 o'clock or something. Just tell people I'm not available then. I got a standing meeting, and then just do these habits I talked about. You could start with blocking 1 hour and then move forward as you do that. The second thing is I'm giving you a lot. Start with one thing. Just start with 5 or 10 likes, thumbs up. All you have to do is go in and go thumb, 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 thumb. I'm done. I'm out. Right? And slowly build up the number of daily tasks you're doing. But you'd be amazed how much you can get done if you get in the habit of doing things every single morning, first thing. And then the last thing is eliminate quadrant 3 and 4 from your work life. I'm okay with binge watching Netflix in your day-to-day life, but In your work life, you should not work on anything that is by its definition not important. And so really try to pay attention to that as you go forward. Hey, if you'd like to increase your federal sales, if you like the training I'm doing, I'm putting a tool behind the training I do with Call Plan AI. I'd love to have you check it out. It's in the early stages as I'm building it with the feedback of our subscribers. That's why I offer 90% off for life for early subscribers. If that's something you're interested in, I'd love to have you over there. For all of us, just remember government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is ending on time. I'm out of time. I will see you the next time. Hey, that was 3 times.